Hello, everyone, and welcome back to River City Girls 2. We're still in Techno space, so we're going to be getting a little device that helps us along our way. It's very cute. We'll see you later. Oh, it's an NES.
And a DeLorean. I mean, a totally not DeLorean.
Did the DeLorean ever have like jet boosters on the bottom like that?
Yeah, and 2.
Well,
technically the end of 1 when it flew off, but
you see, Back to the Future is one of those movies that like I've seen once or twice, but never like as an entire movie. More like just something someone was playing on their television when I happened to walk into the room, and I've absorbed a lot of it through cultural osmosis. Is that like literally the Jurassic Park T-Rex, by the way?
Oh yeah.
There's also Super NES.
Hi. So I haven't been here for the past couple of parts. Are you playing this co-op?
Yeah, we're playing it online together. Me and Ben.
Nice.
Yeah, this was before the big online updates that added 4-player and a bit more stability. We made it work after the next couple episodes.
Yeah, one of the things that I like. This is weird, but like I would be even less likely to play a game like River City Girls co-op than I would a regular ass beat 'em up. Because at least in a regular ass beat 'em up, I don't feel like there are things like arguing for my attention that would require me to slow the other player down in order for me to focus on them. But there's a lot more going on with the money and RPG elements and exploration and everything else in the River City Girls games that I feel like I'm just generally more comfortable playing this in a single player context.
Yeah, the timer really helps with that. When one player leaves, you only got 10 seconds to kind of follow them. So it's like, all right, here's the timer on your exploration / shopping / whatever screwing around you're doing.
Yeah, but that just means the other player won't let you do things. If they're a rando, I mean, you know? Which...
I know this is a game you definitely have to play with a friend with, not just some random person.
Yeah.
I find that most co-op games I try to play with people if possible. There's some exceptions. Granted, like if it's a, more like sports type, not like necessarily just sports games, but sports games is a good example, or shooters or something like that where the actual games themselves are quick. Then that's fine playing co-op for, like a 10-minute thing. But if you're playing like, this is the kind of game you put a few hours into at a time, I would say that's generally something that you definitely want to play with a friend for sure.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to talk about, to put my ideas into words. But when it comes to multiplayer gaming, there's definitely like, it's easier to make and get people invested in games that are like pick up and play rather than dedicated multiplayer adventures, if that makes sense. Like, it's very, very easy to just jump into a random session with someone and play a corridor shooter or a random ass beat 'em up or to jump into a 10-minute deathmatch in some shooter. But like a game like River City Girls kind of sort of exists in the middle, where it's more the kind of scheduling thing that you would associate with Dungeons and Dragons, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
You want to know what it actually reminds me of, and it's sad that not being 8 years old anymore doesn't let you do this. This is the kind of game that I would probably have loved to have played with a friend after school. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Every couple of days you play an hour or two of this and continue going forward. I did something like that with New Super Mario Brothers. Was a big one that I did that with family, and every like month or so they would come over and then we would play a little bit more of that and a little bit more of that. So it definitely, unfortunately, well, maybe not necessarily unfortunately, because if you have that sort of relationship with somebody, and like you talk on Discord or whatever every week or whatever, you can be like, hey, want to play more of this and be like, sure. That's, the benefit of a video game over something like Dungeons and Dragons, in that if you've got a spare hour, you can do it, versus everybody has to have a spare hour at some point over the next month. And not just an hour, it's 4 hours, and the DM has to write 20 pages of dialogue.
Well, I mean,
well.
Baldur's Gate 3 has a fully functional co-op mode that people quite like playing. So
Well, that's cool.
there is some crossover in between video games and like tabletop considerations. Like, you're not playing Baldur's Gate 3 for just an hour.
Was there a map in the original River City Girls?
Yes.
I think there was.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the same kind of map too. Just a bunch of boxes with pathways connecting them.
Okay, because I played the original River City Girls. I have not had a chance to play this yet. Unfortunately, I liked the first River City Girls a lot. Unfortunately, I couldn't beat it. I got to Adobo.
A Bobo, yeah.
Yeah, and I couldn't beat him. And then, yeah, that was basically that. But I did like the game a lot. I had a lot of fun with it. And this definitely does look like the same kind of fun for sure.
It is. I had a point that I was trying to get to, but I kind of like derailed myself halfway there. I guess what I was trying to say is that is that even though this is the kind of multiplayer game that I don't really have the inclination to play multiplayer in, I kind of applaud them for doing it, because I think gaming needs more in-depth multiplayer experiences to balance out all the casual ones that are everywhere. I don't mean casual in the sense of, oh, you're casual gamers. I mean casual in the sense of hop in and play for 10 minutes. Because for a while, in game design, it seemed like developers and publishers saw the more time-consuming dedicated multiplayer games as too much of a risk to bother making. So we stopped seeing cool experiments like Resident Evil Outbreak for a long time. And that's kind of sad, to be honest. I'm glad to see more games coming out with, like, the real time-consuming sort of, you're sitting down for the long-haul multiplayer adventures. Although I guess this can scratch both itches, because you can just hop in and out of someone else's game.
Yeah, it's kind of like a middle genre. Different games that everyone wants to buy in.
Yeah.
And River City Girls is like trying to find that sweet spot. Kind of leans a bit toward the invest in it a bit, but not as much as like Baldur's Gate.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're playing Baldur's Gate 3, you basically, at launch, you couldn't even continue your multiplayer game without the other player joining you. They had to patch in, like, I think it's like a literal wardrobe that you stuff the multiplayer characters into so you can kick them out of the party.
No, get back in the bag of folding.
There were actually two problems with that, because, like, if you were playing with a full party of 4 multiplayer characters, you straight up couldn't do the origin characters' side quests, unless one of the players happened to be, like, directly controlling them, and that was, it's a lot of content that's just locked out if you play multiplayer. They had to fix that in a later patch, and it was just like, oh.
I'm glad they did at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this took us, 3 or 4 sessions to do, Ben?
The entire game? Yeah, somewhere around there.
And we only played for about an hour and a half, 2 hours each time.
Yeah, I think this was like our second session. And
Yeah.
the last one that had really bad lag problems.
Of course, that's just you sort of like blazing through the game for the most part, rather than taking the time to do things that you might not necessarily skip over when you're playing on your own.
Sorry, just the nice on exactly 69 hit combos. I oh my god.
Yeah.
You knew that was intentional based on Way Forward.
No,
Yeah.
it definitely was intentional. I'm just
Okay. Like, I get why 69 itself is a meme. That's obvious. Where does the nice come from?
I don't know.
I think it's South Park.
South Park?
Yeah, I remember the episode where they just say nice a bunch. And I don't know if it's a reference to 69 directly, but I'm pretty sure like multiple memes just got kind of
It's
overlapped
definitely
together.
like a thing that happened in like Twitch chat and replies on like Twitter and things like that, where whenever something was 69, somebody would go nice. And I don't know if there's something that started it or if it just like kind of organically happened.
Right. I am going to actually look this up. Where does 69 nice come from? Alright, the complete history of the 69 nice meme on Twitter. Thank you, Daily Dot. Apparently, let's see.
To give you something to do while I just see how high the hit combo can go up.
Yeah, you wanted to get to 100, so I let you.
I got to like 96 earlier, and then I got yanked off screen right before I could get it.
I guess people just respond to 69 with nice, even when it's a political post.
One thing that brings everyone together.
Yeah, apparently it is from South Park.
And somehow, the robot will actually end up surviving this.
Yeah, because it has a round 2 mechanic. I also think Bebo's kind of a weak weapon, intentionally speaking.
In retrospect, I don't think he actually does any damage. I think he just stun locks enemies.
Huh.
So, obvious important question. What's with the giant fucking robots?
Technōs is building them. We don't know why.
Huh.
It's a startup tech company. Obviously, they're building giant robots in their spare time.
Well then. I hope that's not a boss, because that just gives me flashbacks to all those terrible final bosses that fighting games used to have, where they just throw this giant fuck-off robot on one side of the screen that you have to beat on because it doesn't move, but then you also have to avoid its barely avoidable attacks, because they wanted something that would kill all the players in the arcade so they would waste more quarters trying to beat it.
No, the boss of this area is much worse.
Oh. Well, that's...
It's a social media influencer.
Ugh.
Also, she has massive amounts of lag in our game, so that took us a few tries.
Oops.
Yeah.
Like it causes the game to lag, or the online just doesn't like it for whatever reason.
The online just doesn't like it for whatever reason.
Basically, there's lots of things to dodge during the fight, and if you can't like know exactly where they are on the screen, it's not great.
I can see how that would mess with netcode. At least it's not the Red Dragon, though.
Oh, that's in the Dungeons and Dragons beat 'em up, right?
Yes, I am glad. I'm not
There's
the
a
only one who knows
really
about
good
it.
Wii U port of that game, actually. I don't know if it's on any other consoles, but it's definitely on Wii U. And I played it
or
and
was
liked
on
it a
Wii
lot.
U.
Well, what you mean, Chronicles of Mystara?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually just like available on Steam and stuff.
Okay, so it is.
Yeah.
I would have assumed that they wouldn't have just ported it to. I would have assumed that they would have put it on other systems as well. But this was something that I love. I'm glad that it's back in the sequel, where when the screen's locked, they have the chains, and then that also indicates that you can do like wall bounce combos too, because that's definitely like my least favorite thing about beat 'em ups from the 90s is when you've got like one or two guys left, and then
They keep
whenever
getting
you
knocked
hit
off screen, and you have to wait for them to walk back on screen before you can hit them again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Like easily the worst part of those kinds of games is, that, because beat 'em ups thrive on their energy, and nothing kills the flow than just like standing there, and because beat 'em up enemies will stand around for a couple seconds not doing much, and then you're just like, okay, all right, buddy.
You would think that because of the like inherent limitations of the 2D space in a beat 'em up context, there would be more of a market for 3D beat 'em ups, but like apart from the entirely different subgenre that is the Devil May Cry style stylish action genre, it just never really took off, even though multiple attempts were made.
I feel like these kinds of beat 'em ups evolved into what would become your God of Wars of the world.
There's a different kind of flow and style to those kind of games, though.
Yeah, no, they're definitely like, maybe they didn't evolve, but I feel like that kind of game definitely took its place, if that makes sense. Like, a game like God of War ended up filling the same sort of spot, and especially when, you know, the more lighthearted beat 'em ups of the 90s in early 2000s, you know, would only get like relegated to the occasional like Game Boy or DS sort of release.
Yes, but at some point, like, developers just sort of gave up trying to translate this specific genre to 3D and just started making more 2D ones instead. And they just sort they just sort of spun off in their own directions, you know? It's
there's a 3D Streets of Rage coming out sometime soon, so...
There was a 3D Streets of Rage that was supposed to be made during the PlayStation era.
It's bad, right?
Well, at some point, I think it just dropped Streets of Rage and became its own thing. It's called, oh god, what is it called? I know this. I own the fucking game. Shit. There are 2 games in the series. The second game goes in a wildly different direction, but
God Hand?
no, not God Hand.
No, that's
PlayStation.
Capcom.
That's Capcom and it's PlayStation 2. I'm talking PlayStation 1.
Oh, PlayStation 1. Okay.
Well, if it was Sega in that time period, it'd be for Saturn, but...
The name of the game... You see, this is one of those frickin' old-ass games that's kind of jank to go back to now, because it's PlayStation 1 era, and developers hadn't quite figured out 3D controls at that point. But Fighting Force, I think it's called. Hang on. I think it's called Fighting Force. Let me just... Yes, Fighting Force. That's the one.
Hold on. This needs a Google.
It is basically Streets of Rage without the branding.
Oh my god. This is the most PlayStation ass looking. that girl is just freaking not Anna from Tekken, her sister. Nina. Nina Williams. Yeah, the girl on the right, and the girl on the left is also just Anna Williams. Oh my god.
Well, I mean, they kind of do, yeah. But like, you grow
the guy, you grow the stupid guy's. He's got like the completely flat top, so you grow it up a couple of inches, and he could be Paul. Wow, they just really like Tekken. Okay.
But like, you can see the Streets of Rage going on here, right? And that's also appropriate because Tekken eventually just had a Streets of Rage mode. So, but like, okay, it's like if they had continued trying to make games like that in some alternate universe until they got the 3D aspect of it right. We might have actually seen like an entire genre of 3D beat 'em ups in the vein of games like this, instead of all the retro style 2D side scrolling games that developers just continued making because they gave up on 3D, you know?
Well, I feel like there was also the greater gaming zeitgeist that happened around the late 2000s of retro revivals becoming a big thing.
I let Misako hold Bibu for 5 seconds. Look what happens. Destroy our best friend.
So, the locations have gotten a bit zanier than the first game, that's for sure.
Yep.
We're literally...
Wasn't there like a spider queen in the first game, though?
She was the fashion designer, yeah.
She was a fashion designer, yeah, but you didn't go through any, like, weird spider dimension to get to her. You just sort of fought your way through a store. But right now, we're fighting our way through Attack of the Clones, so... That's a thing.
Oh my god, it is Attack of the Clones. Oh no.
Well, I mean, Attack of the Clones is a pretty bad movie, but that sequence was pretty cool. I liked it.
It was like fine. If I remember correctly, it like kind of drags on a bit because Anakin and Padme do a lot of just standing around and you just sort of watch R2 fly a whole bunch. It's been probably a decade since I've watched Attack of the Clones.
They're scrambling over the conveyor belts while fighting. There's some droid shenanigans. It's stupid, brain dead fun, which is more than I can say for the lightsaber battle that comes after it, or as I like to call it, the close up montage with Count Dooku, where he just sort of waves a flashlight in front of his face. Oh, do you know how they did the Dooku versus Yoda stuff? They just had Count Dooku doing random ass lightsaber choreography against nothing, and then animated Yoda against that. So,
Really?
yes, it's great. I love it. Said no one ever.